Good.
Let's see if this really works. There we go. Preparing. Yeah. Woo. Okay, that worked.
On my screen, it says meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
That is what I was just doing. So now I can close that up for me. Okay. I have the Lolly funeral information up on my screen when they text me. I am going like this. And it is 12 o'clock. People are signing on. Let me move to a spotlight view. Okay. Let me, what do we got here? Paused. Let's unpause that. Okay. Turn on original sound. No, I like my sound. That's interesting. There's something wrong there. Wait, let me fix another setting here. There's a setting I don't like. There we go. Advanced show and meeting. No, we don't like that. All right. And now, much better. Okay. So we got spotlight video. We're doing good. I got a few people here. Okay. Couple people signing on. I'm going to go to gallery view for a moment. No one responded to me. Oh, you're all muted because you're muted coming in. That's okay. And that might work. We're going to give a couple more, maybe one more minute just to see if anyone's signing on and getting their audio working. Thank you for joining me today. We will unmute and allow for questions. I talk fast, and without Rabbi Amy next to me, who tells me to slow down, that means we get more stuff done. But you have to have very fast ears. And you are able, with my security, you are able to rename yourselves. Let's see. I'm going to set the chat that you can only send the chat to me, so you can't say anything bad to everyone. Okay. Let me set that chat only, host only. So you can send me questions on chat, but you can't send anyone else questions on chat. The next thing is you can rename yourself, which is usually helpful when it comes to calling upon you. You can also raise your hand electronically. If you've never done this before, the way you raise your hand virtually is by going to where it says participants on the bottom, where it says 18, manage participants. You click on that, and one of your options on the bottom will be raise your hand, and I can call upon you and unmute you.
That's neat.
I also have the ability, I'm going to let you have the ability to unmute yourselves unless someone falls asleep on their space bar. So we'll be okay with that as well. It is 12:02. Okay, let Tybee get connected here for a second. And I'm almost ready. Oy, Vesemir. Okay. And you can hear me and you can see me. I'm in the back corner of my bedroom. I got a 3x3 foot office here. 19 Tybee. Okay, good. So welcome. Welcome to Tough Questions. I am going to mute, no offense, Herky and Linda. I have muted you. Don't worry. So now we don't hear you. Okay, making noise. We're going to get started. I'm going to try to pace myself and my voice so you don't lose my train of thought. You could interrupt in the middle, but it's probably in your best interest to wait to the end because I might hit that answer or that question. There's a lot to do. This is really a 12-month course. In a way, what these tough questions are 12-month courses that take 30. I'm going to do them in 30 minutes. 15 minutes of questions. And usually we find that people don't have more than 45 minutes of FaceTime Zoom in them. I'm going to spotlight myself, which means if you are, and I am spotlighted, if you want to see my big face, you need to go to speaker view, which is in the top corner usually of your laptop if you have a computer, or you need to swipe on your iPhone and you can see more than just my face. If you want to see lots of faces, you want to go to gallery view. One last introduction, again about Zoom. You are muted. You can unmute yourself by holding your space bar down and then talking and then letting go of your space bar. You can also send me a chat. Only I will see it. don't worry, I have the settings so you can't send it to everyone by accident. And we will have time for questions and answers. Or as Judaism goes, Jewish questions are usually statements, and but as we found in rabbi conventions, but you can also give your own statements as well because you have your opinions and they're just as valid. So we're going to get started. I can't see everyone's face because I am now on Spotlight View. We're going to get started at 12:04, which is early for us. It is the 12 o'clock p.m. Thursday afternoon. We're doing this weekly. Tough questions with Rabbi Alex, that's me. And today's topic, why do bad things happen to good people? And I purposely did the why, and I'll explain that in a moment. And how can anyone believe in God after the Holocaust? So here it goes, my spiel. When I teach God to my students, my adult students, usually when I start off with why do Jews believe in God? Another question for another day. But I say the number one attack on the belief of God is innocent suffering. I believed in God and then something bad happened and then I could no longer believe in God. Innocent suffering. How can there be a God? I know I just got blurry. How can there be a God? Don't know why. How can there be a God? Yeah, with innocent suffering. Yeah, a nursery school burns down, cancer, yeah, a tsunami, an earthquake. We're going to hit all of that today. But how can there be a God with that in mind? And we're going to give some answers. When I teach innocent suffering to Jews or to people studying about Judaism, I start in the beginning, the Bible, the book of Job. Okay, so let's skipping the Torah, which, you get what you deserve. You got leprosy, it's because you did something wrong. Fine. Let's go to the book of Job, the most famous innocent suffering part of the Bible that people fall back on. If you have not read the book of Job, fascinating, very disturbing, and most people, have real trouble theologically after reading the book of Job. I won't go through the beginning with Satan and God, but just trust me, there's a guy named Job. He's got a great life. Some guy, I won't mention Satan's name, says he's only good because you're good to him, God. So God destroys Job. Health, children, job, everything. His friends say, yeah, and why do you still believe in God? So finally, Job breaks. I take it as that's why I call it the trial of Job or the test of Job. I think Job breaks. There's a machloket among rabbis. I think Job breaks and he says, God, why is this happening to me? And God's answer is a wonderful answer when you're a parent, because I said so. And what is God's answer to Job? Who are you to ask? You're only a human being. How can you question God? Were you there when I gave thunder's voice, the lion its roar? Yeah, you can't understand the ways of God. So that's it. And Job says, fine. And God gives him back a new family and health. And everyone lives happily ever after. That's a whole nother class. We cannot go into Job and Satan and all that today and still hit our time. So, but what is the answer in Job? Why is there innocent suffering? According to the book of Job, we don't know. We're only human. But there's a reason, and God is in control. And, and Maimonides, the most famous rabbi in Jewish history, from Moses to Moses, there never was a Moses. Moses Maimonides, he runs with this idea, the traditional view, not my view, not surprising for those of you who know me, not my view, but the traditional view in Judaism is God is in control. God is pushing the buttons. There's a reason for everything. There's a plan from the day we're born to the day we die. And as Maimonides would say, we're not God. To understand is to be God. And therefore, don't even try to understand. It's a mystery, but there is a plan and God's in control. And therefore, you can't even ask the question. And as we talked about, I think 2 weeks ago or last week in one of our tough questions, we had that knowledge. An angel touches us, touched by an angel. We live our lives trying to get back that knowledge. Then we die, we meet up with God, and we get all the answers. So we don't have them now. So that's the Maimonides answer. And that really works for 2,000 years, a little less. And this is the Jewish traditional view of innocent suffering. If I walk out of my house right now, I get hit by a car, what can I do? It must have been my time. God has a plan. We don't understand it. And that's a traditional view. And some people, that is helpful for. Maybe not for me and for a lot of people I deal with, but if that gives you peace that there is a master plan, God bless you. But for those of us who, yeah, that's not enough. Maybe I should have looked both ways. Maybe they need to put a stop sign there. Maybe, it wasn't my time. And yeah, those of us who dealt with tragedy through our lives question this maybe a little more. Up until, and I know this is a big jump, but up until Rabbi Harold Kushner's "When Bad Things Happen to Good People," I really feel like that was the answer for like 2,000 years. God's pushing the buttons. We don't understand. Yeah, it's God. We're not God. Then Kushner comes up with a book, and it was the #1 book that rabbis would hand you when they didn't know what to say because they didn't teach it in rabbinical school. Oh, your parent died. Here's a book. When Bad Things Happen to Good People. It was on everyone's shelf. It was probably the #1 read Jewish book for, 20 years. And notice the title, and we're going to go into Kushner right now. The title is When Bad Things Happen to Good People, not Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. And Kushner says right in the beginning, I'm not answering why, I'm saying when, and that's very important to Kushner. Why? I'll tell you why. So, again, another class. I've taught weeks on Kushner's book, but I'm going to just jump to the Cliff Notes. There are 3 premises Jews believe out there in the world, even today. And the 3 premises are God is all caring, God is caring, God cares, God is all knowing, and God is all powerful. Most Jews believe God cares, God knows, and God has power. Kushner says, if you believe in all 3 of these, you got a problem with innocent suffering. It just doesn't work. Why? He takes these 3 premises, these 3 givens, beliefs that a lot of Jews walk around with, and says, he starts knocking them off one by one. He says, well, what if God doesn't care? Think about all the religions where we're like a plaything, like clay statues and the Greeks, and like, let's have fun with people. Don't get me started on Job. But, and so we could say God knows I'm suffering. God could stop my suffering, but God doesn't care. Most of us, that's a little hard for us to jump to. And most of us believe God cares. I pray to a caring God. We are ethical monotheism. We're not just we believe in one God, but believe God is good and wants us to do good and does good. We believe in the goodness of God. That's where the word God comes from, actually. The German word gut, which means good. That's where the word God comes from. So we're going to keep God cares. So now we're stuck with all-knowing and all-powerful. Number 2, God is all-knowing. Let's say God doesn't know. God cares, and God could help us. But you know what? God is so busy taking care of Wuhan, China, that God can't take care of grandma in Philadelphia. God is so busy. It's not something that Jews walk around believing. It's I call it the superhero comic book complex, that the only way to stop Superman or Spider-Man or Batman, and anyone who follows any of this, is you have to save 2 people at the same time on 2 different ends of the world. That's the one thing a superhero can't do, right? Remember Superman in New York and California? Couldn't, or Lois Lane and in the earthquake, or Spider-Man had his girlfriend. It's always the girlfriend. And Batman was the mayor or the girlfriend. That's how you beat a superhero. But we believe God is not Superman or Batman or Spider-Man. We believe that God can be in 2 places at the same time. And so we believe God knows what's going on. So we don't usually think God is ignorant or just watches CNN or Fox News. We believe God cares and God knows. So God cares about us and God knows we're suffering, if you believe in God. So Kushner attacks God as all powerful. His premise is God is not pushing the buttons, and God does not control every little aspect of life. Questions God's power. So he takes away that 3rd belief. And we'll talk more in a moment. Where is God if God is not all powerful? By the way, the Orthodox usually hate Harold Kushner. If you look on Chabad's website or Aish's website, they don't usually get along, Chabad and Aish, but they agree on this one. Chabad and Aish, if you go on either one of their websites, you can find an article about Harold Kushner's When Bad Things Happen to Good People. I think one of their articles is why Harold Kushner is dead wrong. It's a cute pun. But the idea is that is way beyond the traditional view. The idea that God is not all powerful, something I can embrace personally. Doesn't mean you all have to agree, you 21 other people. But I do believe that God, but yeah, well, I'll talk about my belief in a moment. But Kushner attacks God as all powerful. And again, many Orthodox and traditional views do not like that. But that's what makes that book so powerful. You can, in the end, can you believe in God without believing God? Push that cancer button. So, do I personally, I go back to myself every now and then. I personally do not pray to a God who kills the innocent. I pray to a God who helps us deal with innocent suffering. So what is Kushner's kind of view? And this is, again, it's been a little while since I read it, but I've been teaching it for a long time. God is the ultimate parent. I kind of like this. Yeah. Let's say we have a good parent. Okay. And I kind of put this together with the Bible and the Torah. And if you've been in any of my classes, you've probably heard this spiel before. And it goes like this. When we're living in the Garden of Eden, Bereshit, chapter 1, verse 1. We're living in the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden is paradise. Everyone's going to live forever. Everything is perfect. It's immortality. God is God, and we have no knowledge. And I think of it when it comes to parent and children, it's like we're in a crib. When we're in a crib, our parents take care of everything. I am hungry. My parents feed me. I need my tushy wiped. My parents change my diaper. I'm living in Garden of Eden. Well, it's a cage, but so is the Garden of Eden. But my parents are all powerful. There's no life and death. It's perfect. But my parents take care of every single one of my needs. If they don't, I'm in a lot of trouble. And so the Garden of Eden is a paradise, but it's also the all-powerful parent who takes care of everything. But then we grow up and we become teenagers. God bless you if you ever have to deal with one or four. And it goes like this. Think about the wilderness. In the wilderness, when we're wandering for 40 years, I need water from a rock. I need bread from the sky. I need to get rid of the Egyptians, 10 plagues splitting of the sea. God is taking care of every one of our needs, but what do the people do? Complain. That's adolescence. That's back to human and parents. Our parents still take care of everything while we're teenagers and middle school and high school, and unfortunately till they're 30 nowadays. But our parents are still taking care of us. They know and they care about us, and they are still taking care of every little thing. Get a bad grade. We talk to their teachers, and that's adolescence. But we complain and reject them. But then let's go through the Bible. Prophecy, we talked about this last week. Prophecy, God, we had that middleman, but then we grow up and we no longer need a prophet to talk to God. We can talk to God face to face, pray. We don't need a synagogue. We don't need a rabbi. We don't need a prayer book. God is there for us wherever we go. And it's an adult relationship with God. God can handle the complaints. God can handle that struggle. As Rabbi Naomi Levy said in her book, To Begin Again, we can complain, and those are prayers of protest. I can be angry with God. It's an adult relationship with God. We no longer need a prophet to speak to God for us. We don't need Moses. We are no longer jaded and everything's perfect in the Garden of Eden. We're no longer complaining, even though they take care of everything like adolescents. We are now post-prophecy, which I think is a good thing if you were in one of my other classes about prophecy. But we are adults. And what about an adult parent? An adult parent loves us, hopefully, cares about us, knows we're suffering, but cannot fix everything. Can they still guide us? Yes. Our parents can guide us. They have taught us. They have given us teaching, the Torah, the blueprints for a good life. But they are not taking care of every little thing. And that doesn't mean they don't love us any less, and it doesn't mean they're not active in our lives. And so the Kushner concept is God is the ultimate caring, loving parent, but not the pushing the cancer button, that God is not fixing, God is not all powerful. God knows and cares, but is not all powerful, but that does not make God less active in the world. So, I don't know if anyone remembers this, and I've told the story many times. Anyone around for 9/11? Remember, I can't see your faces. Okay, but 9/11, was anyone watching television that day? Of course you were. And there was only a few news stations, not 25. And you're watching CNN that night because you didn't turn it off. And Larry King comes on. And Larry King has Harold Kushner on that night. So Larry and Harold are across from each other. The microphone is between them. And Larry looks at Harold and goes, "So Harold, you still believe in God?" And Harold looks at him and says, "Today, I am closer to God than any other day. I need God today. God is what gets me through this. When bad things happen to good people, not why bad things happen to good people." Now, I'm going to continue with this because I promised you why, not when. And so I'm going to take Kushner, I'm going to take it a step further. I'm also going to give you my traditional belief, as you know, I went to yeshiva, pretty Orthodox yeshiva as a kid. I can't help it. I believe God has power. I am not exactly where Kushner is. So the Holocaust question, I'll give you the cop-out answer that all rabbis can pull out very quickly. Why? How could God let the Holocaust happen? Simple rabbi Jewish traditional answer. God endowed us with free will, and the Holocaust is perhaps the worst example of human free will in human history. Right? It wasn't God, it was people. God gave us free will. I wipe my hands clean as a rabbi, as God. And that could be, that's probably the number one in Family Feud answer, Jewish answer to the Holocaust. I don't feel that that's good enough for me, but that is the number one answer you learn in rabbinical school, and it kind of gets you out quickly. The free will, the Twinkie defense, the free will defense. It's free will, and God gave us free will, and that's what the Nazis did with their free will, and a lot of other collaborators. But I'm not going to just stop there. I'm going to give a little more my take, maybe even a little more traditional than Kushner. And what I'm going to say is probably disturbing for those of us who have experienced tragedy. But the question of why did God not step in, if we believe God has the power to step in, going past or pre or post Kushner, this is one answer. And trust me, if you are experiencing tragedy, you're not going to like this answer. But here is an answer. Why does God not step in if God has the power to stop it? If God is God and God has the power to make the world, can't God stop a tsunami or cancer or the Holocaust? If you were in my high holiday sermon, I don't know, a long, long time ago, probably a good 10 years, I gave a sermon on the Messiah. When I was a kid, it's like, we want the Mashiach now. We're very into the Mashiach, the Messiah. And I gave a sermon saying, we don't want the Mashiach now. And what was that? The premise of that sermon? The Messiah, the Messianic age, the end of time, the world to come, heaven on earth, usually means that God is taking over. The world stinks and God's taking over. Throughout Jewish history, whenever it's bad to be a Jew, Jews believe in the Messiah. There's a lot of Messiah. At the Holocaust, we have Shabbatai Tzvi, Jesus. We've got, when it's bad to be a Jew, oh, it's so bad, God's going to take over. The Messianic age. We want the Messiah now. We want the Mashiach now. But why does God not step in? The premise of that sermon was that God has not given up on us yet. For God to step in is for God to give up on us, and God still has hope in us. And that God still believes that we can make this world a better place, and God does not need to step in. To step in is to give up on us. And so this idea, let's go back to the Kushner idea, and we've got God as the ultimate parent, and that this adult relationship with God that we have today. But what if we are just not able to function in society? There are parents who have children who they say, you know what, come back home. I know, 30 years old, 40 years old, come back home. I'll take care of you. And that would not be what we hope for our children. You know, it's not all of us have a choice, but we would not hope that we don't have to step in and take over their lives. We hope that they can do it themselves. And therefore, God still has hope in us. And no matter how bad we think the world has been, we still have the ability to make this world a better place, to make a heaven on earth. Perhaps that is our job. Our job as partners with God in the work of creation, I'm getting closer to the end, by the way. Our job, so if you're thinking of questions, you can start writing them down. Okay. Our job as partners with God in the work of creation is to finish the work of creation. Even if God is perfect, God's creation, handiwork, is not perfect. No one believes the world is perfect. God left the world incomplete for us to complete the work as partners with God. Which leads me to acts of God. All right? It's easy, even if I want to use the free will defense. Is there free will defense in a hurricane, a tornado, a tsunami, cancer? And there's a more modern answer to that, and that is yes, it is free will, because it's possible we are actually contributing to this extreme weather and to the diseases. I know it's coincidence, but I've been saying this for many years right now. But I'll move back to acts of God, because that's, I think, what the insurance calls it. We're going to call them acts of God, even if maybe we have a hand in it and we have to be careful. Some would say that even natural acts, okay, are free will as well. But if not, natural disasters, disease, cancer, weather, could still be explained with the incomplete nature of creation. That God did not perfect the world, that is our job. And that these are not punishments. Hurricanes and tsunamis and cancer are not punishments from God, but instead part of the incomplete nature of creation, which we are supposed to help. Our job is to make the world safer, to make a heaven on earth, to cure cancer. None of us believe that if we could live 1,000 years, and no one's done it yet, unless you believe the facts of the Bible. But if you don't believe in the facts of the Bible, you don't think anyone's lived 1,000 years, and you don't think we're going to live 1,000 years. If we could live 1,000 years, they're going to find a cure for cancer. There'll be another problem. Don't worry. And you can tell me whether, and I can show you that over time we have gotten better, and if we put our efforts in the right places, we could learn. Even the tsunami that killed, 500,000 people, no elephants died or something because they got out of the way. What can we learn? And so even with nature and disease, we could get better and we could save innocent lives. And that may be our job in the world, to make the world safer, to build a heaven on earth. Maimonides says that our hands are the hands of the Messiah. Perhaps it is our job to bring about the Messianic age, not some superhero. We are God's partners in the work of creation, and maybe God works through us. So, this is it. Why do bad things happen to good people? We could be Kushner and say, God's not making bad things happen to good people. God is helping us through it. We could say that God hasn't given up on us to improve the world. How can anyone believe in God after the Holocaust? And a lot of Jews did believe in the God after the Holocaust. Many didn't. We could say that it was free will. We could say that, again, God still believes that our job, if everyone in the world wants world peace, there's world peace. There are ways of making a heaven on earth. It may be, as the Talmud says in Pirkei Avot, a never-ending job, but we never can cease to desist, and the boss is demanding. I am now going to go to gallery view because I just talked for 29 minutes straight. Nice, Ron, nice background. And I'm not going to unmute all because that would be a mistake. But we do have 24 on here. I know I just gave you a lot. You should disagree with at least something I said because I gave you different points. Yes, I gave you God pushes the buttons, God doesn't push the buttons. I've given you Messiah, no Messiah. But I'm sure you may have questions or concerns, or you want to just attack me. You're allowed to as well. If you want to raise your hand virtually, go into manage participants and press your button. If you just want to wave your hands because you don't know how to use a computer, I can call on you. And or we can it's take your Zoom headaches and take a nap. So here it goes. Anyone want to hit me with a question, a comment, a disagreement? I see Paul. Paul, I am unmuting you. I'm actually taking the spotlight off of me and just making it non-spotlightish. Let's see, cancel spotlight view. And so you'll come up. I am lowering your hand. And Paul, can we hear you?
Can you?
We can.
Good.
You never know if you can be heard. Okay, so here it goes. Paul, hit me with a question, concern, comment.
Okay, so at the Red Sea, all of Judaism were threatened, and God stepped in, and that was to save all the Jews.
Correct.
During the Holocaust, not all Jews were threatened, but not 1 million, not 2 million, it was 6 million. That wasn't enough. So when is it enough for God? How many Jews have to die before God decides to step in and bring us home?
Yeah. And by the way, since God is not just a Jewish God and doesn't care just about Jews, God is the God of Christians and Muslims and atheists and Satanists. Even a good Satanist has God. So we would say that look at the World War II, 100 million, millions upon millions. Yeah, and I gave another sermon on some other high holiday that the world has gone to hell, and we always think when is God going to step in? It's a very common question, by the way. All religions ask it. Those who believe that God has the ability to step in. When is enough, right? And the Holocaust seemed to make a lot of sense. And so do I believe the world is as bad as it's going to get? I hope so. And yet God hasn't stepped in. Perhaps God is not going to step in. Maybe Kushner's right and God can't step in. I'd like to believe that we have. I'd like to believe that we still have the ability to make this world a better place. That we can learn from the Holocaust. I have another class on the Holocaust that I've taught. Amy and I always disagree. If you don't know this already, Rabbi Amy, and we disagree. Last Saturday morning, we disagreed on Zoom services, and afterwards we made up. So, yeah, we have this thing where she believes the Holocaust is going to happen again, and I don't. And I say, the reason I don't believe the Holocaust is going to happen again is because we had the Holocaust and now we know it can happen. And at the time, we didn't believe when it was happening until it was happening. And so I think that knowledge helps the future as well. I am not saying that God made the Holocaust or didn't make the Holocaust. Well, I certainly don't believe that God made the Holocaust, even in my God has the power to stop it. I just believe that God hasn't given up on us. And yeah, I really wish God stepped in. And at the same time, I'd like to have hope in humanity. So I don't have a great answer, but you're not the first one to ask it. And that's why many Jews moved away from God, and we became, historically, what I claim is that moment we moved from a spiritual religion to a ritual religion, where I'm going to keep kosher and Shabbat and the holidays. God comes below that. Many Jews keep kosher, the holidays, and Shabbat without a strong belief in God. I think the Holocaust, did God survive the Holocaust is a common question. Oh, I see a lot of hands raised. Great question. Okay, wait, I got a chat one too. Okay, Ron, as I'm reading this, I'm going to unmute you. Ron, can we hear you?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you. As I'm looking at this one, hit us with Ron, and I'm going to get the chat question.
For general argument's sake, I did want to disagree on your personal thoughts, but
Please, hit me.
As you were talking, I equated in my mind that we were the parent as our children were younger. And as they grow, we step back to allow them to learn and grow. And I guess that brings me to, I think life is a lifelong college. It's a long learning process. So we can't stop what is happening, or else we would never learn what options are in life and different roles that we and our children or grandchildren or parents need to take. The one thing I did question when you said, why hasn't God stepped in? I guess what comes to mind is, how do we know he has not stepped in? things that could not be more serious than
Yeah.
what we have experienced
Hmm.
or are able to deal with.
Wow, that's that's a question and a statement. And as a rabbi, that's a common question. Someone says, I was talking about prophecy. Was it last week? I don't know. It's every day looks the same nowadays. I was giving this this thing about prophecy, and God no longer speaks to us. And then I said through prophets, but I wasn't saying God no longer speaks to us. My thing is, God is constantly speaking to us, and God is completely active in our lives. God speaks and has no mouth, hears but has no ears, sees but has no eyes, which is disturbing to some people. But yeah, Ron, I'm not really saying God is not active or stepping in, just God did not, I guess I don't think, we obviously don't think God stopped the Holocaust unless we think that God did stop the Holocaust. That would be some other theology. There are Jews who believe that, by the way, that it did end. But Ron, I agree with you, everything you said. So I might have made you say you disagree with me, but I agree with every word you just said. Yeah, so it's very good. Here's another question. How do you think God, this is from the chat, how do you think God made us in his image? Fits into the discussion of our human responsibility for cause and reaction to bad things. Fascinating. Let me get my mind around it. When I talk about we're made in God's image, it's a popular thing, we're made in God's image. And I just said, it's obviously, in my mind, not eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. I think of the attributes of God, mercy and loving kindness, and even some wrath every now and then. But our personalities, what makes humans different than animals, conscience and memories. Now there are animals with those as well, but the idea is, I think that's a great question. The reaction to bad things, we can see that in the Torah, right? God sees something and loses God's cool. Right throughout the Torah, no offense, God, but it does say in the Torah, God is a wrathful God, a vengeful God, an angry God, and then elsewhere it's God is a merciful God. And I think that we have both in us too. I think that's how we are made in God's image. That do you know? Have you ever heard of Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, and that everyone has in them a good inclination and an evil inclination, Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov, like Animal House, little angel and little devil. Do it, don't do it. Do you know that Jewish tradition says that even God has the good inclination and the evil inclination in God? Jewish tradition says that God has an evil inclination, but God, good, rises above it. And so the answer to that question is yes, we have all those attributes, even though we cut them off on the holidays. There is some vengeful attributes that we cut off from the Torah. But I believe that just as God is supposed to and does rise above God's evil inclination, so too can we. So I do believe that we have the idea that God is all merciful and all forgiving. It's hard to find that God in the Torah or the Bible. That's someone else's. I always have those debates on our ecumenical brunches. I saw another hand raised here. Who was waving their hand humanly? Anyone raising their hand? I saw a wave, but now I don't see anymore. Oh, wait, there, Mark Blatter. Let me unmute you. It's a strange thing to have you muted. Okay, Mark, hit us.
Always with a comment before you come to me.
Another al-Khait, for young people.
So having grown up, I grew up in Brighton Beach. I grew up in a place where there were Holocaust survivors, including my parents, obviously, but Holocaust survivors everywhere, including many with numbers on their arms. And I remember having discussions at the synagogue I went to, which was an Orthodox shul, with people who believed that it was our fault, we were bad people, and that's why God killed us in the Holocaust.
Sure.
Which I found to be so horrible. And when the first time I read Kushner's book, I loved the concept of God being there as a parent, as a friend, as a loved one who was there for us. It kind of reminds me of the reason why they said, way back when reading one of the books that I read, why Catholicism evolved from Judaism was because we were so unforgiving in the Old Testament. People wanted a way to be forgiven. And I think that Kushner, I love Kushner's view.
Yeah.
Good view.
And by the way, thank you, Mark. There are Jews walking on the street who do believe the Holocaust. Let me give you a couple more things on the Holocaust. There are Jews who believe it was a punishment for not following the commandments. Don't get me started, but they only pick certain commandments, not the ones about judging and being good people to feeding the hungry. It's there's a lot of commandments out there, and it's not as much about eating as much as human interaction. Number two is I was thinking about what you said about when Kushner's book came out, this idea that God cries along with us. And God is a shoulder to cry upon. It, for me, is very moving. Like divorce. Divorce is a bad thing. It hurts and rips families apart. And yet Judaism commands divorce. But it doesn't. It says God cries when a divorce might have to happen. Some marriages are not meant to be, but God cries along with us. It's not a sin. It's something that God is there for us in our worst times. But yeah, the idea that the Holocaust is a punishment. Here's another popular view that it's really hard to take to this level. The reason for the Holocaust is Israel. God bless Don Selig's soul. Don and I, we agreed on everything and went to yeshiva, not together, but different generations. So Don and I always talked about there are people who believed that, that the reason for the Holocaust is Israel. That historically speaking, is there a state of Israel, United Nations, world support for a Jewish state without the Holocaust? Historically speaking, that's hard to believe that would have passed. But is that the rose and the ashes? Is that let's find something good out of something horrible? Or is that the reason? And so for most of us, we don't call that cause and effect. We call that finding that silver lining, making something beautiful out of something horrible. But that doesn't mean, and this is an argument among some rabbis, not this rabbi, who says that's the reason for the Holocaust. It's I think I gave a class when I talked about the tsunami, and I was with some Baptist friends of mine, and the Baptists believe that the tsunami was. Wait, I'm going to mute a couple people. There we go. There we go. And so they believe that the tsunami was there to teach us to care about the Indonesians. And I thought to myself, there's probably better ways to make us care about Indonesians than killing the Indonesians. But that would be like, isn't there must have been a better way to have Israel than killing, 11 million, murdering 11 million people, 6 million Jews, and a lot more people died than that. So, Okay, Neil, you are unmuted.
Yeah, I guess I have two questions. I mean, our traditional belief, though, is when bad things happen to the Jewish people, it's because we misbehaved. And my second question is, the book of Job, I've been told, is the most direct and personal book in our Bible. It's the only example of kind of a one-to-one relationship between God and a person. I mean, how did the book of Job get into our Bible? I mean, what's your thoughts of how did it get there, and what is it saying about God and his relationship with this individual guy?
Okay. First question, ironically, is easier than the second one. But the first question was Holocaust. Oh, I was going to say the first part about traditionally bad things happen because you deserve it. If you think about, remember, the rabbis don't know the Holocaust exists, right? The rabbis of the Talmud, right? For thousands of years, what were the worst moments in Jewish history for the rabbis? The destructions of the Holy Temple, right? Tisha B'Av, 9th of Av, the worst moments in Jewish history, the destructions of the temple. And it's interesting because the first temple's destroyed, according to the rabbis, because we're not following the mitzvot, right? That's a typical answer. You're not doing the laws, so you better watch out, better not pout. But number two, why is the second temple destroyed? Sinat Chinam, that we are not nice to each other. So it's, there could be, there could be the way of saying we got what we deserved. And I heard people say, the reason we got the Holocaust happens is because we're not keeping kosher. We have our mezuzahs are not good. Our tefillin are bad. But by the second temple, we're already saying it's because we're beating each other up. Jew hating on Jew, which is, I think, ironic because you can find that today sometimes. So, and we have to, stop beating each other up. So yeah, traditionally you could say it's because we're not following the law, but it's interesting. Even the rabbis start saying, which laws are we talking about? Is it the 613 or is it Jew hating on Jew? Number two, the book of Job, that's a tough question. I can't really answer. Maybe I'll do a class on the book of Job. Maybe I'll do 12 months on it. How did it get into the Bible? Yeah, it was a pretty late one edition. If you're a conservative rabbi and can study it historically, if you're saying humans put it in, it was a pretty popular one. You have to assume that's a great story. Very disturbing. It also answers a question: why do bad things happen to good people? I don't like the answer, but it stuck. So, is it obviously other people had one-on-one relationship with God, but a whole book? It's interesting. The God and Job relationship, don't get me started, but it's very disturbing. I think if Job knew the real reason why God, this is my punchline for Job's story. If God actually answered the question honestly, why did God hurt Job? Job would not have been a happy man. So yeah, God's answer was better than the real one. But if you read that book of Job, it's disturbing. Man. So the why did it get in? I can only imagine it was pretty popular reading. And obviously, a lot of people love the book of Job. You can find it in the back of baseball games sometimes. Respectfully sharing, you're doing a casual. Okay. Okay, thank you. So anyone else? Any other questions or concerns? Yeah, so it is 12:46. Like I told you, by 45 minutes of Zoom, you get that Zoom headache going. And if you have 15 Zoom meetings a day, that all the board, make sure you stretch every now and then. If you just heard this because the hotline hasn't gone out. Yes, we have a couple of funerals coming. The hotlines, I'm actually writing them. Actually, let me send this one out. Got it. Because I have 14 minutes to get this information to the obituary. So we did lose two wonderful men and good friends of mine last night. Don Selig and Marv Lally both passed away last night. Don Selig's funeral will be tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. And the reason it's so early is because his brother's in Israel, and we got to get that done so he can be there virtually. It'll be on Zoom, virtually in the cemetery before Shabbat hits in Jerusalem. Marv's will be on Sunday at 1:30. We'll have lots of shivas. We'll have lots of services Saturday night, Sunday night included. So there's a lot coming, and it's been a long night and a long morning. But we got a lot of people. They're loved kind of guys and wonderful, wonderful men. They used to go to the golf course together. So it's been a tough day. So if you're just hearing this now, information's coming. But I told them I'll be incommunicado for 47 minutes. So I'm going to let you talk among yourselves. I don't just hang up Zoom, just in case you want to. I'm unmuting, which is probably a mistake. Okay. I'm unmuting all. You are actually not unmuted. Now you are unmuted. And I am going to mute myself. I'm going to unvideo myself, but I'm not hanging up the meeting. So thank you for joining me. You're unmuted. Thank you. You'll be here.
Thank you, Rebbe. Thank you, Rebbe.
Thank you.
Love
Thank
you
you.
all, and we'll do this together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill, that was pretty awesome that you had your son